In your 30-plus career in estate services, what have you noticed has changed about what people value or becomes like hot,
When I started, the things that were of value were the things from the baby boomer generation. Basically, America went through some cycles. We had the Depression generation, which was my father, who kept everything, the string savers, because you might need it someday, because they lived with nothing, and so having something was a value to them. And I have done those houses. I had one where I took 2 truckloads full of plastic grocery bags out of the house. Do you know how many plastic grocery bags you can cram in a truck? And having a half a dozen grocery bags makes sense. You might need them, but nobody needs 2 truckloads. But they can't let go of it. So we went from the Depression era generation to the baby boomer post-World War II generation, where it was an affluent society and everybody had to keep up with the Joneses. And they had sterling, and they had crystal, and they had linens, and they entertained. And when I started the business 37 years ago, those items were hot. If I had a good set of Haviland china, that was $500. Now it's $20, take it, please.
Wow.
Because people don't entertain it. Who do you know that uses fancy table linens and their sterling and their fancy china and their fancy crystal? Doesn't happen anymore, and the people that like that kind of stuff are gone. Someone asked me one time, what's the definition of an estate sale? An estate sale is an old person selling a dead person's stuff to another old person. And that is the audience. That's who is buying a lot of this stuff, because today's generation, the millennials, don't want all this stuff. They want to spend their money on experiences, travel, food, those sorts of things. And I say more power to them, because after a while, what you learn is you don't own the stuff owns you.
I hope that a lot of the people who made the mistakes by doing it themselves figure that out. I mean, that's a lot of effort, sweat, tears, sometimes even blood, getting rid of things.
Early on in my business, we used to have Goodwill drop boxes on the corners. I did an estate for a guy who told me, he said, when I loaded up my mother's clothes and took them down and threw them in the Goodwill drop box, I felt like I was throwing her body in there, because he recognized the clothes as his mom's. They smelled like his mom's. The emotional toll of him getting rid of those clothes was tremendous. Whereas if he had been following my prescription, he could have left them hanging in the closet the way he remembered them. It's easy for me to get rid of them. There is no emotional stress involved. But instead, he put the time and the effort and the work and the emotional stress into doing it himself for no gain.
Just pain. How can people disassociate themselves from the memory and the thing?
It's very difficult to do. But those same things are just things.